Hey guys, we just got out of Kingsman, The Golden Circle. I didn't review the first movie. I saw it in theaters, but Sarah and I were at 50 Shades of Grey.
I think it was, me and Irving?
No, it was you and Brian.
Okay.
It was you and Brian. But that review for the first one is on the YouTube, or it's on the site, one of the two. So, you gonna get just as excited for this movie and this review?
No. No, and it's... I don't even know how to describe it. It's not bad. It's not bad. I can't say it's actively bad. But it's one of those things that it's... Like, the first Kingsman movie... I own that movie.
Yeah.
I haven't bought a whole lot of movies in recent years because, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. You don't need to buy a lot of movies. I bought that movie. And was happy to buy that movie. And used the download code in my iPod. And that was like, if I was on a train or something for a couple hours, that was one of the movies I would watch if I didn't have a signal because I really liked that movie.
Yeah.
And it was fun and joyful and kind of a breath of fresh air for the genre at the time.
Especially when it, because that was a February release.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is not that. This is a subpar sequel to a great movie.
This is, have I seen action movies that are like way worse than this?
Oh,
this
absolutely.
Year? Certainly. This year alone, I did not like this movie at all.
No.
Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, this is terrible. This is one of the worst things I've seen all year. No, of course not, because this is the same year that had Chips. But I know how to perfectly describe this movie. It's a sequel. It feels like a prototypical, bigger budgeted, longer, bloated.
Yeah, and that's... It had all the problems that you would expect in a sequel to have. Like, on screen. And it made me think for a minute, are they playing that up like they played up all the tropes in the first one? But it's not fun like the tropes in the first one. It feels fucking forced. It feels like...
Yeah, you know what it feels like? Austin Powers Goldmember.
In a lot of ways, yeah, and that's the problem is because... the first one, even though it was just a great, solid, fun action movie, it was also a bit of a tiny bit of a satire. There's a lot of, playing on those things.
It was a love letter to the Roger Moore era of James Bond
satire
movies.
was the wrong word. Yeah.
No. It was a love letter to those movies, and... There's a lot of outlandish stuff that happens in the first movie with, the from the heads exploding to the action sequences. It goes up into space. There's a lot of far out stuff in the first movie, but it worked. It all blended together. It worked
because it worked with the genre. Yeah,
it did.
Was that kind of weird sci-fi element that just kind of was seamless. And in this, there's fucking robot dogs.
Yeah, this one has weird stuff in it. It has far out things. It has robots with machine guns, the robot dogs, like you said, because
they could, and that's kind of the shame of it, is where I sometimes movies need restrictions. That's
right. It just feels like it was, whereas you had all these things that really made the first one fresh and made the first one work. This one feels like it's there because there was crazy stuff in the first one, and who cares if it feels really, really random. It does. It feels really fucking random. It feels like what they were thinking was, who cares if it doesn't really go seamlessly in with anything? Let's just do a bunch of crazy things just because.
Yeah.
Robot dogs, just cause.
Elton John.
Oh, for the love of God.
The first time he popped on screen would have been a solid one-off joke if they had just left it the fuck alone. If they had left it the fuck alone and not had him be part of 2 fucking action sequences for no goddamn reason.
Yeah. Dude, I totally agree with you, man. Like, you have Julianne Moore, who's kind of obsessed with the 50s, but yet kidnaps Elton John. Yeah. That's like, oh man, I'm really obsessed with the 40s. I'm gonna kidnap Barry Gibb. Like, what? Okay. I mean, Elton John was alive in the 50s. Is that the reasoning? Like, man, when this movie pauses so Elton John can stick his head in and literally smile at the camera, not once but twice he does in this, while Rocket Man plays, fine. Like, I guess at least when a really quick sting of Rocket Man came on, it was like, okay, well, at least Elton John is literally on screen right there. Most of the other musical cues in this movie have nothing to do with anything. They're there because, like, yeah, sure, the first one had a lot of hits on the soundtrack. It worked in those scenes. It elevated. It would make them more intense, make them more funny, make it really pumped you in the mood for these action scenes that were going on. In this, a song will kick in because, hey, you know, Prince is cool.
We got the rights to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the like, yeah, this movie, it was just like, instead of, they could have, and the formula's not so dissimilar from the last movie, where it just wasn't done as well, and it's a shame.
It felt so much more soulless. It felt completely soulless. It feels like it's because Matthew Vaughn directed this, so it's not a poorly directed film.
No, it's wonderfully made. It's except for, you know, the writing.
But there's something about it though, because like, the scenes look like you would think they'd look, the action scenes and the rest of the scenes. And Matthew Vaughn is a talented director. And this, there was something about it that, maybe it was because I just wasn't enjoying this movie, but it felt like how a movie would look and feel if a really talented director was making something he was bored with.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I have more problems with this movie than things I like, but at the same time, I can't sit there and say it's a terrible movie. It's just not good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say, look, this movie's not gonna be on my bottom 10 by any stretch of the imagination.
No. If I was gonna make a list of like movies that disappointed me this year, this would be so far easily number one.
This would
with
be
a fucking bullet.
This would be way fucking up there. And they have Colin Firth back in this movie, and it's this ridiculous way that he's back, but at the same time it's like, I didn't enjoy this movie with Colin Firth in it. I don't know what the fuck I'd think about it if he wasn't in this movie.
You know, and the ridiculous the way they bring him back, like, in a little bit I was like, okay, that kind of fits in with, but not quite.
In the same way that it's like, okay, from the first, if you were to see the first movie and if you were to see the first movie and you were to ask someone, do you think robot dogs exist in this universe? The answer would probably be yeah. That doesn't mean you can just put them there fucking randomly.
No, and there's so many. It's kind of like Julianne Moore, who is a wonderful actress, and she was doing a fair job of playing a overly perky sociopath.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was no sense of menace from her at all, in my opinion.
Not really, because the scenes were so predictable. You know, she's going to kill this guy at the end of the scene. She's going to make that guy kill that guy. And I don't know. Whereas the first one reminded me of having a blast sitting through a Roger Moore or James Bond movie. This one reminded me of two things, that like the bad Austin Powers movie I mentioned earlier, and also it reminded me of, is this an homage to a Bond movie that I would see and then not see again?
Yeah.
Is that what this is? And it's 2.5 goddamn hours long?
And just, this movie also did the thing where it's just like, hey, we're going to have some Americans in, so let's get some big-name American actors to just fill screen space. Mm-hmm. Because that's what they did. I hate to say it, like, I love seeing Jeff Bridges in fucking anything. Mm-hmm. Anything. But you know what I am dying for? Anytime in the next, 5 years, I want to see a movie where he doesn't put on a shitty Southern accent.
Oh, where he's not playing a cowboy?
Yeah. And, you know, also with these, Channing Tatum, I like Channing Tatum anymore. I used to hate him. He has grown on me immensely.
No, totally.
But there's no reason for him to be in this movie.
He spends most of it comatose.
Yeah, it is a glorified fucking cameo, and he's like fourth fucking build. There's 2 actors in this movie that are billed above the lead, and I fucking hate that shit. I really do.
One of the things that
I know it's all contractual, but I fucking hate that shit.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Do you know what, like, it's a side thing, what always, like, drives me nuts, and again, it's one of those things, like, yeah, contracts, I get it, when you have 2 people on a poster, and 2 names above them, but it's, like, switched, you know what I mean, like, oh, I hate that, I hate that so fucking much.
No, it's and then Halle Berry for no fucking reason. It's like, for all these characters, you could have gotten great iconic, like, character actors to play the same roles and been 3 times as effective.
Oh yeah, and even when it tries to be somewhat effective, it's just reminding you of how things were done better in the first one. But then there's this big send off for a character towards the end who has a death scene, and it's dramatic, music is kicking in, all that, but the event, the thing that led to his demise
is so fucking stupid.
Right. It's sort of like, okay, we need a character to do something really stupid right now so that this other character will get killed and have this big send-off. Because this movie isn't long enough as it is. Like, it's like, okay, that felt so artificial.
Yeah.
You know who I did like in this movie, though? There was one guy who I did really like in this.
Michael Pena? Or not Michael Pena.
Whoever that was playing Burt Reynolds.
That dude, it's not Michael Pena.
It's not Michael Pena. I don't know.
That was so unintentionally racist of me to do that. I was like, the Hispanic dude.
This guy is, you see him in the trailers. He's the one with the laser whip, and he's there to be a Burt Reynolds type character, and it is uncanny how much he looks like a young Burt Reynolds in this movie. Like Smokey and the Bandit era Burt Reynolds. It's fucking uncanny, and the guy does a good job. Like, he's got the mannerisms down, the tics down, and everything. Like, it felt like
Pedro Pascal.
Okay,
who is a great actor.
What else has he been in?
He was on Game of Thrones.
Okay.
And he's on the show Narcos that's on Netflix.
Is he the main guy on Narcos?
He's one of the DEA agents.
Oh, okay.
And he's great.
He's
one
Narcos.
Of those dudes that, like, anytime he pops up in something, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be, at least his parts are gonna be okay.
And I liked him in this. What did you think of him in this?
He was great in this. He was besides Eggsy, the only interesting character.
He was. Yeah. He absolutely was. And he has such a horrific spoiler. Sorry. Spoiler real quick.
We're going to get into some.
He has such a horrific demise, and I was sort of like, I understood where he was coming from. I don't agree with what he was, but I was like, from what happened to him in his past that led him to this point to make him do what he did, I connected those dots. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm against what you're trying to do here, but you obviously had something really fucked up happening to you, and I can kind of understand this mindset you're going through. And he has just this fucked up death in it. I was like, that was a little much. But again, whenever he was on screen in this, it really felt like you got Burt Reynolds from the 1970s and put him in this movie.
No, and he's a solid actor, and he's got good comedic timing. He's got good dramatic chops too. It's and he was used to good effect, but everyone else, it was really poor. And then like another problem, like, I'm gonna go into my wife's mindset here real quick. Okay, the beginning of the movie, you see in the trailer, Kingsman is destroyed.
Yeah.
So, this character in the first movie, Roxy.
Yes.
Who is an incredibly likable, good, supporting female character that is not, not used as a romantic interest, which was another thing that was really refreshing about the first one.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a pretty girl that they're working together and they don't end up fucking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they kill her off in this. And I get that they're killed off the entire organization to establish stakes, but she's the only character they killed off in the beginning that we already had an attachment to from the previous movie. And it's just kind of like, I like Mark Strong a lot. He's a great actor. I think the movie might have been more interesting if she was still alive and he was dead, because they would have had no base,
Yeah, I was like, that's kind of a bummer. And yeah, the scene is, it's not like, she's the only one who gets killed or anything like that. There's quite a few who do in this sequence.
10 or 11 guys get killed, but we've never seen any of them before.
Yeah.
And the only face we recognize is Michael Gambon, and how much money did they pay that fucker to come in for 30 seconds and die?
I don't know. Is it as much as Jeff Bridges, who's just probably filmed all his scenes in a day in that office? Like, so when she died in it, I was like, yeah, that is kind of a bummer. Like, because it's like what you said. Like, you have this attachment to this character throughout the first movie, and then just look. And I'm not saying like, oh, clearly, well, this character you liked in the first movie should live in the second one. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just mean like, it's just really like, okay, bye.
Well, and that's the thing too. It wasn't quite on the same level as like the women in refrigerators thing to me, but it was just such a waste of a good character. Like, it was a good character that they just gone. And it's like, all right, but you can go back to his fucking druggy friends from high school and shit 8 times for no fucking reason. But you kill off a good character for no reason.
That's a key to this movie, is for no reason.
Yeah.
Honestly, it goes along with everything else. It goes along with everything else in this movie. I mean, he's dating and is, by the end of the movie, gets married to the princess from the first one.
The one he fucked in the ass.
Yeah, and I was like, is this only happening because there were some people who complained about the ending to the first one? This feels weird.
and that whole him having a romantic relationship subplot, kind of unnecessary.
It was, yeah.
Because they could, and maybe it was because a lot of people complained about that ending, and it seemed sexist. But you know what? It was in keeping with the tone of what they were kind of paying homage to.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's and yeah, maybe it was sexist, but
it's homaging stuff. How Roger Moore ends up with someone at the end of all of those freaking movies.
Yeah, exactly.
And it had a punchline. It had a joke. I didn't need to see.
And maybe she was just getting fucking hers too, because it was, as far as spy movies go, one of the least rapey hookups in a long time. Wasn't rapey at all. She offered.
It's in the Constitution. Once you save the world.
And her accent's gone in this too.
Was it?
Yeah, because in the first one she had a much thicker accent. Doesn't fucking matter. It's just there's so much unnecessary filler in this movie. There's like the few scenes that are really great. So some of the action scenes, as soon as people shut up and start fighting in this movie, it's like, okay, I'm in again.
Yeah, I mean, they were well done, but it was like, I don't know. In the first one, I was into the fight scenes way more in the first one, just because it was an overall better movie.
Oh yeah, and in the fight scenes were, that's another thing too. It's like in the first movie they established that these guys, after their training, are amazing fighters. Like Colin Firth killing a church full of people.
Yeah.
Or Eggsy taking on basically an army by himself. Doing fine. In this, one guy who's got training similar to them beats the shit out of both of them.
Oh, the Channing Tatum scene? Yeah.
Quickly, too.
I was thinking about that, too. I was like, this feels like it's just happening for plot.
Yeah, like
I don't know. This movie is... It's a colossal disappointment. It's long and bloated, and you can see the money on screen. It's there. It just feels heartless. It really does. I was honestly bored sitting through most of this movie.
Well, and that's another shame of it too, is because Matthew Vaughn's not a dude who's known for doing sequels at all.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, like, he's a dude who's been known to turn shit down.
Yeah.
That he didn't think he wanted to do. X-Men movies, for an example.
Sure.
And so when he was going to make a sequel to Kingsman, I was like, oh, awesome.
Mm.
Fuck me. It was tragically disappointing. Like, it does have good parts, and compared to a lot of shit, it's still better than most shit. But you can't judge a sequel to a movie unless you're comparing it to the first one. And this fails miserably in that context.
Like, it's certainly better than sitting through that, like, you know, that Transformers movie that was out or something like that. Like, yeah. It's better to sit through than something like that. But you go into Transformers The Last Night
kind of knowing what you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, you walk into something like this, I don't know, you should get better. You should get better at it, out of it.
The first movie deserved more than this. And it's honestly a real shame. It is honestly a real shame.
Would you recommend this as like a rental or?
I can't. I you know, it's one of those things. Like, if you liked the first movie and you're curious about it, sure. But my advice is leave the first one alone. Like, the only reason I could really contemplate suggesting this movie to someone at this point is if they're gonna make a third one and they want to know what's gonna happen, what the history is.
Yeah.
You know, like. In my brain, I'm going to try and forget this existed and enjoy the first one as a standalone.
Yeah, I know.
It's kind of like the Jurassic Park movies. Like,
oh.
Fuck the second and the third one, and even the fourth one. The first one's still great.
Yeah.
You know?
Certainly. It's not terrible, but it's... So if you really want to see it, just wait for it to pop up on Netflix. Don't go out to see it. Don't go to a video store or anything like that. Just like pop it up on Netflix or something. Sure, why not? Because I mean, yeah, I've seen way worse this year. It's just a disappointment. That's all.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts about this movie?
Our Springfield's IMAX theater sucks.
The seats are comfortable.
The seats are comfortable, and that's fine. But you know what? Like, that theater obviously was not ever designed to be an IMAX theater. They just put in the fucking speakers and the fucking screen, and it's too fucking loud for the room. Which, yes, IMAX is supposed to be loud, but it's not supposed to be the point where you can't hear people talking over the music.
Oh.
Like... And that wasn't the fault of the movie. That was just bad sound. And also the thing that drove me nuts is, you know, it's an old theater, so they still have the can lights up in the ceiling. And the new screen is so fucking tall that the can lights, the ones that just dim down in the theater, that don't turn off completely.
They eventually did.
Oh, no, they were on the whole time.
Towards the end of the movie, they were off.
Oh. Well, they were on for a while. Well, that's
Yeah.
possibly fucking user error, because...
Yeah.
But yeah, the lights were just like reflecting off the screen for part of the movie. It was driving me fucking crazy. I hate shit like that in a theater. It's like motherfucker, you got a job. Flip off the lights, start the film. That's it. That's all you have to do. You press buttons. Like, I know you get minimum wage, but come on.
They should be, I don't know if they're automated now. They weren't when I worked there. But that was...
What, the lights in the theaters? They're not automated here.
Yeah, they weren't when I was there.
Once a month I gotta go out there and tell them to turn off the lights.
Oh. Of course, when I worked there, it was 17 years ago. And that was a different theater. But yeah, no, I didn't like this movie at all. So tomorrow, I believe, as they didn't give it a pre-screening tonight, so tomorrow... Allison and I are going to be at the Lego Ninjago movie, which on the plus side, it's not 2.5 hours, I guess. All right. See you guys. Thanks a bunch for watching.